The World Health Organization's Emergency Response Chief, Peter Salam, has spoken on developments in tackling the Ebola virus. The outbreak, which is concentrated in the Democratic Republic of Congo, is now the second biggest in history and has so far infected at least 450 people and killed at least 270 of them. Experts say large drug companies remain the only realistic vehicles for manufacturing vaccines at scale, and the problem of presenting them to work on non-profitable diseases in poor countries stretches beyond Ebola.
The World Health Organization says vaccine research by more than one pharmaceutical company is key to containing the current and future Ebola outbreaks in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The experimental vaccine, known as VSV-ZBAV and made by Merck, targets the Zaire strain of the virus, which is the one causing Congo's current outbreak.
The basic bottom line is we know the majority of sources for the cases of Ebola. They are coming from healthcare facilities with unsafe health practices like unsafe injection. They're coming from a small number from unsafe burials, and they're coming from contacts of families with confirmed cases.
Immunizations with the experimental shot began in Congo in May this year, a big movement in a 40-year fight against a disease that until now could only be tackled by isolation and strict hygiene. But attacks by armed groups and community resistance to health officials have hampered the response.
You can imagine it's very difficult to trace every day, every contact, when the only possibility to reach those areas because of insecurity is with armed military escorts. So in those most insecure locations, the percentage tends to be much higher of contacts that are being lost to follow-up.
The WHO announced that some 2,000 healthcare and frontline workers in South Sudan are also to be offered Ebola vaccines to try to stop any importation of the viral disease. South Sudan is one of the 3 countries, with Uganda and Rwanda, that the WHO said are at very high risk of having Ebola imported. Salama and other experts are urging drug makers to stick with producing more vaccines, even though they are unlikely to make a profit because the world needs more than one Ebola vaccine.
The point of the research is the only time you can really do it is in the midst of an outbreak, because that's the time when you have human cases. So if we don't use these opportunities to learn what are the most effective vaccines and drugs, then we'll never actually know more.
Congo has suffered 10 Ebola outbreaks since the virus was discovered there in 1976. The outbreak, which is concentrated in the North Kivu and Ituri provinces, is now the second biggest in history and now has so far infected at least 450 people and killed at least 270 of that number.
Meanwhile, a baby girl who was admitted to an Ebola treatment center just 6 days after birth is now recovered from the virus. Health authorities say although her mother, who had Ebola, died during childbirth, the baby survived the outbreak, calling her a young miracle. She was discharged from a hospital in the conflict-ridden northern city of Beni, where she had received around-the-clock care for weeks. The baby is now the world's youngest survivor of what the World Health Organization calls the world's second deadliest Ebola outbreak.